Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today, Religious Karen loses it over a dinosaur quilt. After that, Karen, the food was horrible. Me, but you ate it all. And after that, Entitled Mother calls me, my boss, and texts me at work saying it's an emergency. It wasn't. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to watch Jurassic Park. They never existed! So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Religious Karen loses it over a dinosaur quilt. My sister and I weren't raised religious. She went off to uni at 18 and became a Christian when she started dating another Christian. Basically, the point is she doesn't believe anymore that dinosaurs exist. She's now married to a man who isn't religious, which is a sore point for her that he won't convert. I have a niece who's 9 and a nephew who's 6. A couple of weeks ago, while watching them, my nephew mentioned his quilt I made him was getting too short, so I told them both to go into my craft room and pick some fabrics they each want on a quilt. I could easily open a fabric shop with all of the fabric I have, so they had a rare time picking out their fabrics. My niece went for some space/galaxy themed, and my nephew picked out some dinosaur fabrics. I thought nothing of it and got to work. Today, I went over with their quilts, excited to see their reaction. They were so happy until my sister noticed my nephew's quilt and asked, "What the heck?" I was confused, and she quickly went on a rant about her knowing dinosaurs don't exist, and how dare I try brainwashing her kid like that. I told her he picked out the fabric himself. I genuinely didn't make the connection, and I would let him pick more fabric for a different quilt. By this point, my nephew is crying, saying he doesn't want a different quilt, so my sister called my brother-in-law, telling him to set me straight. He basically shrugged and asked what the big deal was. It's only fabric. Their son likes the fabric. It's his son too, and he believes in dinosaurs, so he should get a say on the quilt too if it's such a big deal. My parents are now involved, and despite not being religious, they're upset at me for what I've done. No one but my brother-in-law believes it was a genuine mistake or oversight, and they think I've set out to mock my sister's beliefs. I honestly didn't think I'd have to vet my nephew's fabric choices with my sister, as all the fabric they had access to was kid-friendly prints. The stuff with swearing, etc. is kept elsewhere, as they like going into my craft room. Edit. Thank you good people of Reddit for your comments and advice. If there's any more comments tomorrow, I'll try replying to them. I'm off to sleep now, and here's hoping I don't dream of dinosaurs. Night-night. Well, what do you think? Was it okay for OP to make the dinosaur quilt, or should she have checked with her sister first? Please let us know. Of course it wasn't okay. I would have just burned the thing. Karen, the food was horrible. Me, but you ate it all? I was remembering some crazy stories about my time as a waitress when I was working at Saltgrass Steakhouse and thought I'd share. Maybe share some more stories about the choosing beggars you will always encounter in the restaurant business, but I like this one particularly for how my awesome boss handled it all. We've got Entitled Woman, we've got me, and we've got the manager. This was a few years ago, and I had been at this particular restaurant for a little over a year at this point. I never had a wrong order and knew the menu like the back of my hand, and I really loved working there since it was more pricey than some places, so we tended to attract better tippers. It was close to the end of my shift as a couple walked in. My replacement wasn't there yet, so I thought, why not? One last table for the day. I greeted them politely, and they ordered some smothered cheese fries and some soda, and later got some double pork chops and chicken fried steak. I remember because it was just a good day. I checked on them periodically, making sure their drinks were always full, or if they needed anything else, made sure their food was okay, to which they replied that it was great. I noticed that they had cleaned their plates, not one single thing left on them, and as I was taking them away, I asked if they wanted some dessert. They said no, so I proceeded to drop off their check, and all of a sudden, their attitude went sour at this point. Karen, I want to see your manager. Me, okay, but can I ask what the problem is? I might be able to help. Usually I could help if there was any problem, although I couldn't think of what it was. Karen, this was the worst food I have ever eaten. I'm not paying for this. I want it for free. She was actually pretty loud, and I was grateful the restaurant wasn't busy because I hated it when customers made a scene and disturbed the other diners. Me, okay, I'll get my manager then. I purposely walk by the podium and tell the hostess to not let these people D&D, which in our store meant dine and dash, just funny restaurant language for us. Thankfully, my manager got out of her office in a flash, knowing that leaving while they weren't being watched was probably what they were waiting for. And sure enough, our great host was blocking them from leaving at that exact moment. Manager: "Excuse me, folks, but you haven't paid your bill. You need to pay before leaving," she said, going to the doors as well. She had stopped people from just walking out on the check many times before, so this was nothing new to her at all. Karen: "But the food was horrible. You expect us to pay for horrible food and service?" She looked at me when she said that, obviously lying, but there was no point in defending myself. My manager knew I was good at my job, and she has heard it all before. Manager: "Well, I'm sorry you feel that way. If I may ask though, if it was so horrible, why did you eat it all? Once you finish your meal, there's nothing I can do to fix it. And even if it was horrible, we have a no comp. Comping a meal is what we do to give it for free. Policy. So regardless, you will be paying your bill," she said sternly. Our food was expensive. They had spent a little under $100, so there was no way she was letting them walk out on us. Karen: "You can't make us pay for bad food. And we are in a hurry, which is why we ate it all, because we didn't have time for you to make it better. The food here is always terrible anyway," she said, making a motion to leave. But my manager didn't even flinch, which seemed to surprise the lady, as if people just magically moved out of her way all the time. Manager: "Ma'am, I can call the police and have you arrested for theft. Just because you didn't like it doesn't matter. You ate it regardless, and now you need to pay for it." Now, do I need to call the police, who are literally 2 minutes away? You could honestly see the police station from out of the restaurant windows. Or will you be paying your bill? Karen: "But it's not stealing. It's only food after all." She began to yell again and whine about it. I will never understand people who think that eating and not paying is not stealing. Just because you consume the product doesn't mean it's not stealing. If you took food from a supermarket, it's considered stealing, and this is basically the same thing. Karen: "Fine, but we will never eat here again." I couldn't help but stifle a little laugh at that point. Even if she heard me, I didn't care, because I already knew I wasn't getting a tip. After all, they already tried to make a run for it without giving me anything for it, so why would they bother now? My manager led them to the register, and they paid, leaving in a huff. I sighed and began to clear the table and noticed my manager had a little smirk on her face as she handed me the receipt. Manager: "Enjoy your 20% gratuity I added to their bill," she said with a smile, walking off. That definitely made my day. After all, they had signed the bill because they paid with their card, so even if they contested it later, we have proof they approved it. Regardless, my manager did this so I wouldn't be stiffed from an entitled table. No one leaves our restaurant without paying. We will honestly bend over backward to make you happy, but you will be paying in the end. Speaking of Saltgrass Steakhouse, what's your favorite restaurant of all time? Please let us know. I do love me some Chipotle, even though it does tend to give me the Hershey squirts. Entitled mother calls me, my boss, and texts me at work saying it's an emergency. It wasn't. So my mother, who's 51, is an entitled mom to the max. Toxic family members? No problem, just forgive them. Constantly bugged staff when I, 24 female, was younger and would call the school whenever she got the chance to complain about something. Finally, she needs everything to go her way. Also, constantly making me 20 minutes late to field trips and demanded they wait because she had to get ready. At my sister's wedding, she said she would help at 11 a.m. to set up. Didn't get there until 5. Gift opening at 10:30. She got mad when we started without her. So yesterday, she actually called my work number 4 times. My boss, I don't know how she even got her number, as she doesn't even know where I work, 2 times, and finally sent me a text message asking if I ever wanted a relationship with her. To which I responded with the following: "Mom, I would love a relationship with you. However, some things have to change. I can't be answering these questions when you know I'm at work. You can't continue to gaslight me because I want a relationship with my father. My dad is my dad, and just because he left you as a wife does not mean he left me as his daughter, like you made me believe when I was younger, which was completely wrong of you to take your emotions and to put them on me. I got to read all the paperwork. I know both sides. Divorce of parents with kids are never one-sided. You can have a relationship with me when I hear an apology for the things ex-stepdad put our family through. All of it. The teasing and the bullying has to stop. That means all of it. You do not get to play the sympathy card if I react badly to years of that crap from my siblings that you also contributed to. Stepdad, and yes, from you as well. That means no more making fun of me, my past, or my current partner, including making fun of our relationship. None. You need to seek professional help for your narcissistic tendencies. I am under no obligation to keep my hair blonde, give you grandkids, or to not donate my eggs, get a tattoo that I had no say in, or to visit you. You have no right to make me feel bad when I do things and you don't like them. I don't want to visit a toxic household when I know what will happen, so until you get professional help for your past, I will see you on major holidays and special occasions. And now I finally have peace and quiet. Am I the jerk for calling my grandma a failed gold digger? My grandma, who's 64, is a narcissist, has always hated my dad. Before my mom met him, she dated a doctor who treated her like garbage. But to my grandma, he was Mr. Perfect because he had gobs of money. My dad is a county sheriff, so even though he supports our family just fine, and my mom hasn't had to work in over 20 years, my grandma still insists on hating him because our house doesn't have a pool or a tennis court like my mom's ex. My grandma is still friends with his family. She also treats my sister like trash because she was my parents' firstborn, and in an attempt to make peace, my mom insisted on naming me after her, resulting in me being my grandma's favorite, even though I personally can't stand her and go by a shortened version of the name. I've also been sharing my gifts from her with my sister since middle school. She'd literally send me $250 gift cards for Christmas, while my sister will get a sweater from Walmart. The most expensive gift she ever got from her was a leather purse, right after my sister went vegan. Anyway, restrictions have relaxed a lot in my state, and we could only use what's been going on as an excuse so many times before my mom insisted on inviting her for dinner. We weren't even halfway through our salads when my grandma asks how paying off my student loans are going. I proudly tell her I should be debt-free by next summer, and my grandma starts talking about how she wishes we had had college funds, but my mom didn't want to marry up. My dad has the patience of a saint, but me not so much. I put my fork down and said, maybe it's because she saw the example you set as a failed gold digger and decided she didn't want to be miserable like you. For context, my grandma has been married 4 times, each time for money, and all of them either blew all their money or went to jail, and then she left them because they went broke. My grandma yelled at me and left. My mom cried, and my dad told me he appreciates me defending him, but he doesn't want me to start crap on his behalf. I understand his point, but I also know he feels a lot of guilt for not being able to pay for our college, which is why he won't charge us rent and instead insists we live with him so we can pay off our debts faster. So I know that even though he acts like her comments don't bother him, they absolutely do. My mom is still moping because she's all, family this, family that. My sister called me a trooper, and my dad still thinks I shouldn't have said anything because he hates seeing my mom upset. So what do you guys think? Am I the jerk? I'm just tired of her constantly insulting my dad when he works his butt off to give us a good life. But then again, I do have a tendency to be a daddy's girl, so maybe I'm just biased. Edit. I really appreciate all the feedback, guys. Just to clarify, I want to say my mom has talked to my grandma about her comments and favoritism several times in the past. The problem is, she'll knock it off for a little bit, then circle right back to her normal narcissistic self. It's a never-ending cycle of jerkery with this old lady. Anyway, I suggested therapy to my mom to deal with how her past has affected her, and she told me she'll think about it. So that's progress. Again, thanks for the feedback, guys. Stay judgy. Well, what do you think? Was OP too harsh on Grandma, or did Granny get exactly what she deserved? Please let us know. I like the grandma. We should really hang out sometime. Manager from another post begs me to return after firing me. If anyone saw my post on r/I don't work here lady, this is the same Walmart assistant manager. A little setup. Between my previous post and this one, I was fired for working. I had transferred to apparel, which didn't have any cameras due to the dressing rooms in the area, so that came down to my word versus his. Sadly, corporate didn't know our history, so they didn't side with me in my appeal. But basically, I was fired for not working, despite the fact that I was keeping the department afloat single-handedly. Everyone else there were elderly ladies who couldn't keep up with the fast pace required. Anyhow, about a month after I was fired, I was doing some shopping. I hate Walmart, but in my town, there's some things you can't buy elsewhere. So I'm browsing the clothing section, admiring the sudden redesign of having clothes scattered all over the place. I step over a few shirts, not my job anymore. I'll not do a job I was fired from unless I'm being paid, and continue meandering. Assistant manager sees me and runs up to me. Assistant manager. Hey, can we get you back? I'll hire you right here, right now. I'll push the appeal through. We need you back. I thought you were lazy, but this place has gone to heck. Me. It's tempting, but I do have another job already. Sorry, but I can't just bolt on a job that needs me. Besides, You fired me. Assistant manager. All right, I'm sorry. If you'd be willing to put in some work, I'll push it through with HR to get you paid. It's our policy to pay all workers. Me. I know the policy, but you can't afford my freelancer rates, and your policy is paid at standard starting wages. At this, I turned and walked away, stepping over a few other garments someone threw on the floor. I felt bad, I really did. My OCD really took a hit there. But I don't make a habit of helping people who do me over. Since then, the manager has been fired for harassing other employees. I still have contacts there in upper management. Parents who think it's okay to let your kid pet guide dogs. What the heck? This is not a post about a particular instance per se, but of the general experience I get as a blind person. I get people who pet my guide dog, which is a huge no-no. Never pet a service dog, especially a guide dog. Most often, it's just people who don't know you're not supposed to do that. When I politely tell them not to do it, they apologize and leave. Often, I have people ignore me and still pet them, at which point I will usually command my dog to take me out of the situation. Less often, people will actually confront me about it, accusing me of being cruel for not allowing my dog pets. Of this latter group, the vast majority of the time, it's entitled parents with their spawn. I don't know why, but I would say at least once a week, I will experience a kid petting my dog, me telling them no, and the parent making a fuss about it, telling me that it's mean to their kid not to let them touch my dog. I once had a parent try to get me kicked out of somewhere for having a fake service dog. During some of these interactions, I've had many simply tell their kids to keep petting even after I've told them no. Many have full-on started screaming and shouting at me, and as a small blind girl, this is quite scary. One sticks out in my mind where I was in a supermarket, and more than one kid, two I think, screamed, "Doggy!" and ran over to him. After my normal, "Hey guys, please don't touch him, he's a guide dog," etc. I hear 2 feet from my right ear, a female shouting at me about having my dog indoors. After saying I was a blind person and he was my guide dog, she then accused me of pretending to be blind. Her reasoning? "Your eyes are perfectly normal." Besides the fact that this doesn't change the fact I was or was not blind, it's also something I hear on an almost daily basis. After some back and forth, during which she told her kids to keep petting him, she actually took the leash off me. This is why this particular interaction is so ingrained in my memory, and you have to understand how absolutely terrifying that is. That's like if someone came along and blinded you. I was utterly helpless. I started screaming, panicking, and crying in the middle of this place, and eventually drew the attention of staff, who rather unhelpfully dealt with the situation. The point of this post, simply just to express my built-up rage over the years at the number of entitled parents who believe that their kids' rights to touch a cute animal overrides the safety of disabled individuals. I've had so many bad interactions with people of all types and stories galore, but entitled parents remain in my moments of infamy, because not only are they being absolute goblins, but they're teaching their kids to be goblins too. If you're someone with a service animal who has any similar experiences, please let us vent together. If you're someone who pets, talks to, or in any way interacts with service animals with their vests on, stop doing that. And to parents who let their kids do this, why are you such a jerk? Got my supervisor fired after she retaliated against me and fired me. I started working for an insurance company in January of this year. I even moved to the opposite side of the country to do so. While I was in office, everything was great. I was hitting my metrics and exceeding goals monthly. Then 2020 hit, and we were all sent home to work remotely. That's when things went downhill. In June, my aunt passed away, so I took time off for the virtual memorial. In July, my wife lost her best friend suddenly and was in the thralls of grief, so I used paid time off during this time to cover. The first Sunday of July, I had done a shift trade with a fellow associate, but I logged in anyway just to make sure it was accepted. I checked my schedule, and the coding for the day was confusing, so I sent my supervisor a screenshot and asked for clarification. It was determined by my supervisor that I was off that day. This is important for later. Throughout the month, I noticed that my supervisor was going into my time card and changing my hours worked from over 2 months ago, which caused me to, allegedly, use PTO that I didn't have, even though the system and my paycheck stated otherwise. Because of her hijacking my time cards regularly, I received 8 attendance occurrences in 1 meeting. We are allowed 12. Now remember that day in July where my supervisor determined I was off? Well, 1st of August hit, and she comes back and tells me that I in fact was not off that day, and now that I'm looking at the screenshot, you needed to work. She and I went back and forth on what the point of sending information if she wasn't even going to look at it. I even reached out to her supervisor and HR, but ultimately I was told that this would be the 9th occurrence. After my supervisor got wind that I went above her head, she got mad. She wouldn't recognize my accomplishments, but would do so for the rest of the team. She would send me emails that were confusing and started micromanaging everything I did. Any small mistake would result in immediate disciplinary action, even something as small as going over by 1 minute on my break. I'm on the spectrum, and it was taking a toll on my mental health. I would come into work feeling worthless, no good, and in utter terror of losing my job or getting in trouble for something, because up until this point, I had gotten in trouble every single day for the last 2 weeks. Finally, I came into work on August 3rd only to receive an email stating that my supervisor had once again manipulated my time card for the day of June 30th. I didn't even think it was legal for a supervisor to go back and change a time card from over a month ago. As a result of this change, I got an email that HR had consequently backdated all PTO taken between June 30th and now due to the change, which was requested directly by my supervisor. At this point, I get sent into a meeting with my supervisor and hers. During the meeting, I remained as calm and respectful as possible, all the while trying not to break down in tears. I called my supervisor out for time card manipulation, retaliatory behavior, and lack of communication. I even called her out for telling me multiple times to change my time card within a pay period. This lady lied to her boss's face, and what's worse, she was believed. My character and ethics came into question, to which I was told an investigation would be launched. Long story short, by the end of the meeting, and because of her manipulation on my time card, I was at 13 occurrences and was ultimately let go. The revenge came in just a few hours before the meeting, because what my supervisor didn't know is that I had saved every single email between me and my supervisor and taken a screenshot of every Skype conversation. The CEO of the company actually responds to emails and has responded to mine every time. So I explained the retaliatory behavior in an email to the CEO, along with all the emails and screenshots between me and my supervisor. I figured it was a long shot, but I wanted to try. Since I was fired that afternoon, I was unable to access my emails, so I didn't know if she responded. I was fired on Thursday, had an interview with another company on Monday and Tuesday, and yesterday I was offered the position, 1 week to the day that I got fired. This position is a significant salary increase, as well as a normal Monday through Friday schedule. It's incredible how someone that has character flaws manages to get a better job in a week. Earlier today, I got a Facebook message from a former coworker of mine. Apparently, word has gotten around regarding my termination and the email I wrote to the CEO. As a result, my supervisor is no longer there. Not quite sure if it's admin leave or termination, but apparently an investigation is being launched to see if she did this to anyone else. And the CEO sent out a mass email to the entire company with updated policies for reporting retaliation and that supervisors are only allowed to update time cards within the last 2 weeks. I was stunned. That jerk fired me without cause, but I came with receipts and simply returned the favor. Don't touch my stuff. In college, I had a randomly assigned roommate that I did not get along with at all. Our personalities were just on two opposite ends of the personality spectrum, and we clashed. The only things we had in common were that we went to the same college and lived in the same apartment. That's it. Anyways, it was a nightmare living situation. The apartment had 4 rooms and 2 bathrooms. She and I shared the same bathroom as our rooms were next to each other. We had 2 roommates on the other half of the apartment that we both got along with. After over 8 months of just pure passive aggressiveness towards each other, like I would put sticky notes on her days-old dirty dishes and she would put my wet laundry on the floor, she decided to report me to apartment management for bullying her. Honestly, we were doing it to each other. However, the apartment manager took pity on her because I was tall and athletic and she was 6 inches shorter than me and very thin. She claimed I physically intimidated her and she was scared to live with me. She did this because she wanted to move to a new apartment without paying a $500 fee, but instead the apartment issued a written warning. The warning stated that we were not to touch any of each other's personal belongings without written permission. First infraction was a $250 fine, second infraction was a $500 fine, and a third infraction would result in eviction. I was so scared walking out of that office because I could not afford those fines, and she had the biggest smile on her face. I knew that she would immediately report me. I went back to the apartment and she left for work. I was mortified. Then I realized she made a huge mistake. Everything communal in the apartment belonged to me, and she was a super moocher. I told my other roommates what had happened, and they were shocked. I asked if I could use their bathroom temporarily, and they said of course. So I immediately emptied out everything that was mine in our shared bathroom: shower curtain, toilet paper, rug, towels, soap. I grabbed my magnetic whiteboard and listed out everything in the kitchen that belonged to me. Plates, cups, mugs, pots, pans, silverware, coffee maker, toaster, pot holder, towels, literally listed every single item, and said that she is not allowed to use any of it without my written, no text, permission. I also drew some eyes to remind her that everyone was watching. I popped that whiteboard on the fridge and went in my room to do some homework. Later, she came home from work and had a meltdown. She screamed, not any words, just a blood-curdling scream. And the following couple of days, her father came to the apartment to threaten me that they were getting a lawyer. She bought her first roll of toilet paper and a plastic shower curtain, but it was too much for her to handle. She went back to the main office to report my bullying once again and was instead told that she could either deal with it or pay $500 to move to a new apartment. She moved out 7 days after the warning was issued. Have you ever had a roommate that you just couldn't stand? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know. Entitled Dad Runs My Foot Over. Cast. We've got me, third-year lifeguard. We've got Entitled Dad. He's in a wheelchair. And we've got the kid. Working at a water park exposes you to a lot of crazies. I work at Starbucks now, but I still got more crazies at the water park, though plenty of crazies at Starbucks too. On this particular day, I was guarding our wave pool. Our wave pool is one of the biggest in the state and has a mini attached side pool that's about 3 feet deep and has a little playground so the kids can still experience the waves. The wave pool itself goes to 7 feet and everyone under 48 inches is required to wear a life jacket. I was specifically guarding the kids area and was the only one guarding it. Important. There were 3 guards on the beach/entrance to the wave pool, 3 guards on each side of the wave pool, and now 2 guards solely watching the deep end. One of the #1 rules of being a lifeguard is that you never ever leave your area and never ever take your eyes off of your zone. I had just rotated to my spot when Entitled Dad approaches me in his wheelchair and gets my attention. He politely asks if I can retrieve his son from the pool and describes him to me. I'm more than happy to do so for him. I'm standing by Entitled Dad searching for his kid, and he's getting more and more frustrated because I cannot for the life of me find him. I'm actually mildly starting to freak out because I don't see the kid he's describing anywhere. The kids area isn't big, but there's like 50 kids crawling over the equipment and trying to sneak under the ropes into the big pool, so it's mild chaos. Finally, Entitled Dad points and shouts, "Oh my God, he's right there!" So I follow his hand, and this little twerp is like 100 yards into the big wave pool, floating happily along in his little Ninja Turtles life jacket. I relax because he's okay. I apologize to the Entitled Dad and say, "Unfortunately, I can't swim out there," and tell him it's time to go home because I can't leave my area. But if you'd like to tell one of the guards on the beach, I'm sure they'd be happy to. No, I don't have time for that crap. Just go get him." Me. "I really can't leave this area, sir. I need to watch the kids and keep my eyes on this zone." I move away from him to patrol my area and check the equipment, check the water, etc., while this man is shouting at me from the deck. "This is ridiculous. Just go get my kid. You're a jerk, you know that? It's not that hard. Go do your job and get my kid," etc. I round the corner of the playground where he can't see me and whistle for a supervisor because this is above my pay grade at this point. By now, the other lifeguards and parents and kids have noticed and are watching with concern, and I smile and giggle when I get uncomfortable. So I'm hiding a smile when I walk back around, still ignoring Entitled Dad, who's now shouting that I'm not paying attention. "Correct, sir. You're mortifying yourself. I'm not paying attention to you, especially as I already solved your problem, and you're yelling at me." Entitled Dad. "What's your name? I'm going to report you to your personnel department and get you fired." I spot my supervisor running over and move towards him. As I pass Entitled Dad, he gets frustrated that I'm not paying attention to him and uses the beach-like incline to run his wheelchair over my right foot. I yelp and jump back. One of my lifeguards hits the emergency stop button and the waves calm, and my supervisor goes from jogging to sprinting. Entitled Dad. "Listen to me when I'm talking to you. Oh my God. Kid 2, go out and get your brother. This is ridiculous." Long story short, he had another kid that swam out to get his first kid anyway. I got pulled off rotation and sent to the EMT and reassured that I was fine and my job was safe. And my supervisor kicked Entitled Dad out of the park, and now he's banned forever. Sorry, little Ninja Turtles life jacket dude. I'm sure you were just doing your thing. Old lady says I'll be written up for telling her there's no breakfast. So for some background, I work in a senior living home as a server, and I'm a pretty nice person to the residents. But when they start yelling at me, I tend to cry a little, so I don't really confront anyone. We've got the old lady, we've got old lady's fiance, we've got coworker, we've got boss, and me. Story. So in my work, we stop serving breakfast at 1 p.m. and old lady usually comes in with her fiance at around noon to eat breakfast. But on that day, they came in at like 1:05 p.m. and they sat down at the table they always do, and I went to go take their order. Me: "Hey, old lady and old lady's fiance, do you know what you would like? Or would you like some menus?" I asked because I know they didn't know what we have for lunch since they never order lunch. Old lady: "Yes, I would like some pancakes." And me: "Oh, I'm sorry, but we don't serve breakfast after 1 p.m. I'm sorry." Lady: "What? Not even eggs or bacon? Nothing?" Me: "No, I'm sorry, but would you like some menus so you can decide what you'd like?" Old lady and fiance nod, and I get them menus and walk away to clean other tables, and someone else takes their orders. I thought that would be the end. Of course it wasn't, and about an hour later they finished and start heading to the front to pay. That's when the lady sees me walking away from the front to check on other residents. "Are you the first person who talked to me?" "Yes." "So you're the one who told me there was no breakfast, right?" "Yes." "Okay, come with me to look at a menu before you get written up for being rude to a customer." Me, very confused as to what I did wrong, start walking to the table we keep menus on. Okay, opens a menu and holds it in between us. "Right here, it says a la carte. That means I can have breakfast whenever I ask." Me, no. The times on the menu clearly say that we have breakfast specials from 7 to 11 a.m. and regular breakfast from 7 to 1 p.m. "Yeah, but that's up here. Down here it says a la mode. That means all day." At this point, she starts kind of berating me. "We have been coming here for breakfast for a while, and we're not going to have some girl telling us, 'Oh, you can't have breakfast,'" said in a mocking tone. At this point, another resident came in and was waiting to be waited on. Lady: "Now, do not go around telling people what they can and can't have. I'm going to give you a smile, and you're going to give 3 other people smiles too." One thing everyone knows about me is I hate being told to smile, no matter the context. I'll smile if I feel like I should. "Now someone just came in. Don't be rude. Don't tell him he can't have breakfast, and smile at him." She then walked away and acted like nothing happened while getting cashed out by my boss and cousin. In hindsight, I should have went up and talked to my boss right then and there and told her what just happened, but I knew I was just going to cry while explaining it, so I took the other resident's order and went on break when I told my coworker who was there. I cried a little after telling them. We sat there making fun of it and saying things like, "Man, if she wants, she can try to order pancakes for dinner, see how far that goes," and "We're not McDonald's, she should get here a bit earlier." One of my coworkers even said I was super nice when explaining that we didn't have breakfast. He said that I didn't even need to say sorry. Anyway, only one of my coworkers seemed upset. He left the room and went back to work. A couple minutes later, he comes back in and hugs me, saying he confronted old lady and told her that she was wrong, and she kept saying that I was super rude to her. I didn't want to give them breakfast because I was lazy. Coworker: "Do you want to go talk to boss about it?" Our boss is a take no BS from anyone type of person, so she usually tells off the residents when they are crossing the line with us. Old lady: "Oh no, I'm very busy right now." Coworker: "Don't worry, I'll bring boss here." That's when he told our boss, and he stood near so he could hear, and apparently old lady was telling boss that me and coworker were super rude to her. We then started joking about it again when boss comes into the break room and tells us what happened. Boss: "So I talked to her about it, and she kept lying, saying that you and coworker were super rude and yelling at her, and that coworker was waving a menu in her face, which I know is a lie, as I can think of some people who would do that, and you two are nowhere near being on that list. She kept saying that a la mode meant all day, and she knows that's what it meant. I told her that's not what it meant, and that it meant 1 by 1 of what we have. Then old lady said that I was lying, and I told her I wasn't because I made the menu 15 years ago, and she just went quiet then. To this day, old lady has not spoken to me unless it's to give me her order for dinner. She never apologized or admitted she was wrong. This isn't the only story I have with her in it. Do this, watch this video next. You are going to love it. And huge shout out to Declan, our newest official channel member. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Join as a channel member today and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And to have us make any kind of video you'd like us to, come visit us on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.